You are now tuning into the Resilient Podcast. Enjoy the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 46 of the Resilient Podcast. I am your host, Rob Aurelius, and today I am being reflective on one of the most transformative periods of my journey, which was 2025. So before we start today's episode, first and foremost, this is the first episode of 2026. I would like to tell everyone that listens to this podcast and watches it on YouTube, Happy New Year. And I really do hope that you all get everything that you want in this year, whether it's a new car, a new job, a new house, marriage, a new child, whatever. Best wishes to you all. I do hope that 2026 is a year for people to just feel that they're getting right back on track. And, you know, for me personally, 2025, it tested every part of me, just like 2024 did, because 2024 was like a curveball that I never saw coming. 2024 had started off pretty smooth, and there was things happening in the beginning of it where I knew that things were a little shaky with my ex-girlfriend and I, due to a conversation that we had after Christmas in 2023. And then 2024 started where I had this trip out to Florida, and before I went on the trip, that's where she confessed to me that she had been feeling a certain way towards everything. And then eventually in March of 2024, we finally had that conversation where we broke up. And 2024 was just a bad year for me. Now, 2025, it tested every part of me. It tested my heart, my mind, my resilience. But I can say that as we step into 2026, we're a few days in. Well, actually, we're more than a few days in. We're actually 2 full weeks into 2026 now. I can tell you this. The story doesn't stop here. It's just the beginning. And I am proud to say that I'm no longer trying to survive like I did in the rest of 2024, and 2025 was all about surviving, because I kept looking back at 2024 when 2025 started, and I said, man, I can't believe it. And in 2025, I had to deal with the 1-year anniversary of our breakup, which was March 21st. In August, it had been 2 years since I had met her. And then when November came along, it was the second year that I could not spend her birthday with her. But on that specific day, November 19th, it was her 32nd birthday, which unfortunately I couldn't spend with her. It was the second year in a row that I couldn't spend a birthday with her. But it was the 1-year anniversary of the Resilient Tribune, because I launched the Resilient Tribune in 2024. So it was the 1-year anniversary of our breakup and the 1-year anniversary of the Resilient Tribune. And, the next day, It was November 20th, and I said to myself, man, had things went the way they were supposed to, it would have been the 1 year anniversary of me proposing to her. And that didn't happen either. So, like I said, in 2026, I'm no longer trying to survive. This year, I'm becoming. And I'm going to talk to you guys about the aftermath of 2025. And, 2025 felt like a year of lessons and setbacks. And I won't sugarcoat it. There were moments when I felt completely broken, lost in heartbreak, drowning in doubt. And then came the Resilience Project, right? 2025 was supposed to be the year that I launched the Resilience Project. And for those that are probably tuning into my journey right now, the Resilience Project is a personal journey, a professional milestone, a reminder that even in our lowest moments, we can find purpose. But, this episode isn't about rehashing the pain. It's about embracing the quiet after the storm. And after everything I went through, I learned something undeniable. I learned that resilience is not about avoiding struggle. It's about finding peace in the middle of it. And as we enter this new year, 2026, we're already 2 weeks in. I'm not here to just survive this year. I'm not going to accept that. I'm here to live it. I'm here to embrace every lesson and become the man I've always wanted to be. To become the man that I've always meant to be. So, the man I'm becoming, right? Think about it. Every year, we try to grow, we try to learn, but I'll be honest with you. There's a difference between growth and evolution. I've spent so many years trying to prove myself, running after goals, chasing people's approval, seeking people's approval, seeking validation from folks. But, I've realized that the man I'm becoming and the man that I'm supposed to be is not defined by what I accomplish. He's defined by who he is, and he's defined by who he is at peace with and what he's at peace with. I don't need to fight anymore. I need to just be. In 2026, I'm not moving forward with my heart in a rush. I'm moving forward with my heart in the right place. I'm embracing the silence. I'm embracing the waiting. And I'm embracing the strength that comes with stillness. And that takes a lot. So, I mentioned the Resilience Project. I mentioned that we were supposed to launch the Resilience Project in 2025. We had an original date, which was supposed to be November 20th, because it would have made the 1 year anniversary that I had proposed to my ex-girlfriend. And when, Diego and I had a few conversations about the post-production aspect of things, we decided that we wanted to give it an extra week just to be safe. And when we decided on the extra week, that's where we literally decided, you know what? We're not going to do it November 20th. Let's give it about about a week and a half, which will let us fall into after Thanksgiving and, the beginning of the end of the month. And we went with the date of December 3rd. And the reason why December 3rd was significant to me is because I was playing around with the numbers of, what December 3rd would have been was 1, 2, 3, 12, 3, right? Which is the complete opposite of 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1 was the date that her and I broke up 2 years ago. It will be 2 years this year. Well, actually, it will be, it will be 2 years this year that we broke up. So when we realized that, December 3rd also was not going to work, we decided to push it to December 30th, but with the aspect of 2 parts. Because Diego, during the few meetings that I had with him during the post-production aspect of things, he said to me, listen, let's just split this documentary into 2 parts. And he explained to me why it made sense. And when I discussed it with others and I thought about it long and hard, I said, you know what? He's got a point. Let's split it into 2 parts. And then we ran into some trouble. We went into some trouble through the post-production process because, again, it's not easy. And I just kept thinking about things. And I kept saying, you know what? Here's the thing. I know a lot of you have been waiting for the Resilience Project documentary. I have been getting people asking me literally every week. And sometimes I've already expressed to these people what has happened. I've already told certain people what's going on, and they still continue to ask. And for that, I do want to say that I am thankful for everyone's patience. And I won't lie, the delay was tough. We had, of course, like I mentioned before, a set release date, and then the circumstances shifted. But you know what? This story needed time. It wasn't late. It was right, And, we set a new release date for part 1, which is supposed to be later on this month, which is January 23rd. And on January 23rd, around 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, everyone should see part 1 on YouTube. And all I can say is, look, trust me when I say this. What you're about to see, it's worth the wait. Because it's real, it's raw, it's authentic, it's genuine, and it's exactly what I wanted to share with everyone. And I'm excited for you to see it. I'm excited for everyone to see this first part. And, I'm excited to share it with the world. And I'm proud to say that after so much and just reviewing everything, it's been worth the patience. And I promise you all that, when you see part 1, you're going to be eager to see the next few parts. And what you can expect from part 1 is the beginning of this journey. It's about me. It's about who I am, why the podcast was created, the Resilient Podcast, and what resilience truly means. And I'm proud to say that James Zeb, who is someone that's very close to me, will be narrating the story. His voice will guide us through the emotional peaks and valleys, giving insights into why resilience became not just a personal mantra, but a mission. This is where everything begins, not just for me, but for all of us who are part of this journey together. It's more than a documentary. It's a story of healing, transformation, and the strength to keep moving forward. And I'm so thankful for that. And I literally have goosebumps right now just thinking about it. I really do. But I recently met with a friend of mine, obviously to kick off the new year. We sat down, we had some Terramana, and I was going over the episode overview. And my friend was like, oh man, how exciting. This is like your third year of doing the Resilient podcast. And I'm like, well, it's going to be our 2-year anniversary. So yeah, I've been filming it since 2024, but this is only going to be the second year. So that was another thing. We had the 1-year anniversary of the Resilient podcast in Las Vegas, 2025, because we started the podcast in April of 2024. And we started also filming for the Resilience Project in 2024. When I knew that this was going to, I had a vision. And when I had that vision, I said to myself, I feel like I need to start documenting everything. And I remember speaking to Joshie about it and telling Joshie, Josh, I'm going to start documenting this stuff. So, before I get into anything further, I just want to take this moment to raise a glass and make a toast to 2026 with, of course, my favorite bottle of preference, which is Terramana Tequila, Añejo. And, I like to make a toast for everyone, for everything, for a great 2026, success, wealth, abundance, love, those that want to get closer to God, those that want to overcome every obstacle that they've been through, those that want to become resilient, those that want to reach milestones, certain goals, personal goals that they have been wanting to achieve for so long. This right here is, for those that are watching on YouTube, is the first glass of Terramana that I have in 2026. I did have a shot of Terramana December 31st when I was in Hartford, Connecticut. And then, I had some champagne when the ball dropped. But this is the first shot of Terramana that I have this year. So for everything that I mentioned, folks, to a successful 2026, a resilient, beautiful, and fabulous 2026. Salute. Man, smooth citrus finish. For those that love to drink, Terramana Añejo. Beautiful choice. So, before I get into that, I want to take a moment because we're going to go on a brief break in a few moments. I want to give a big shout out to one of our sponsors, which is Victor Melgar at Nala Health, who helps make this podcast, the Resilient Podcast, possible. 46 episodes. And I remember when I reached out to Victor a few episodes in, and I asked him, Victor, could Nala be a sponsor for the Resilient Podcast? And Victor said yes. And I'm thankful for that. So, Nala Health, offers clean, sustainable, and powerful wellness products for the resilient spirit. And I want everyone to remember that you can save 10% on your next purchase with the code TRP10, which is right here on the screen. When you visit www.nalahealth.com, it's right here. And when you use code TRP10, like I said, you save, you get a discount for 10% off of your entire purchase. And this is a code that you could continue to use over and over and over. It's not a first time code. You can use it every single time you purchase something from Nala Health. And, personally, I use their CBD. I use their phytoceutical formulas, for inflammation, for insomnia on the days that I can't rest, and also for, anxiety. I suffer from social anxiety. So when I take Nala Health anxiety formula, on a day that I have a meeting, or, on a day that I'm traveling, I feel great. I really do. And I know that these are formulas that work. These are formulas that I can back up. These are formulas that I can vouch for. They do work for everyone. It's not one of these things where it doesn't work for everyone. It really does. And again, it's pure holistic. It's pure, 100% natural. And, you know, I'm glad that Victor created Nala Health, because honestly, Nala has helped me. It's changed my life. It's actually saved me. And I'm very thankful for Nala. So, folks, we're going to take a brief break. And when we come back, I will discuss with you all the conversation that I had with my friend a few days ago. And we'll talk more about resilience, and we'll talk more about what to expect in 2026. But, let's take a brief moment, and I will see you guys in a bit. So, welcome back to the Resilient Podcast. I'm your host, Rob Aurelius. This is episode 46, the first episode of the year, and I am so excited. Before I get into what my friend and I discussed, I would like to let everybody know that about a week ago, I had a very serious and important conversation. I'm trying to remember exactly how long the conversation was. I'm actually going to look at my phone so I can be able to tell you guys exactly how long the conversation took place. And the conversation actually was for 2 hours and 55 minutes. So almost 3-hour conversation. And this conversation that I had was with someone special, someone that you all know very well. And the reason why I say this is because the person that I had this 2-hour and 55-minute conversation with was with Joshie Lopez. For those that do not know who Joshie Lopez is, Josh was the former co-host of the Resilient Podcast. Josh was on 2 episodes with us, and then Josh decided to step down because he had been going through a lot of transitions, a lot of things. And when I recently caught up with him, Josh was able to share with me that he actually made the move that he wanted. Josh was living at the Chicago at the time when we started the podcast together. I'm out here based in New York City, and Josh was out in Chicago, but he wanted to move out to Florida, and he finally got the chance to do that, before the year started of 2026. So, congrats on that. Another thing that I want to mention about Josh is that recently Josh recorded his last episode of the Hoots podcast, episode 500. It's crazy, right? This is episode 46 of the Resilient Podcast. I don't even know if we'll ever get to 500 episodes. I would love to, but the thing is, life is so unpredictable. So, I was able to talk to Josh before he filmed episode 500, and, he recently did. And the link to his episode is actually right here on the screen for those that want to check it out. And here's the thing. For those 2 hours and 55 minutes, we talked a lot. We talked about, what went down, what were some things that Josh took away from everything as he exited, things that I took note of and whatnot. And, we talked about our friendship. We were friends before we started the podcast. We always described our friendship as a brotherhood. And in that conversation, I told Josh that I've always considered Josh and looked at him like an actual brother, like an actual sibling. And even though we're not biologically related by any means, I've always had nothing but love and respect for Josh. And Josh told me that he had been watching episodes, listening to episodes of the Resilient Podcast, and he applauded me for my success. And I'm thankful for that. And I'm also thankful that I was able to start off 2026 with Josh by my side. And, we're still friends. And I do plan to visit him soon. Hopefully later this, early this year, out in Florida. And I'm just thankful for everything. Unfortunately, there was some people that I met in 2024 during the resilience journey that befriended me because of the journey. Some of those folks are still around, and I'm thankful for them, and I love them very much for that. Some folks are no longer part of the journey. Some folks, parted ways. They're doing whatever it is that they're doing, and they didn't make it to the end of the year. And I'm still thankful for them because somehow, some way, everybody comes into your life for a season, a reason, a lifetime. And these folks came in for a season. They came in because I was going through my resilient journey. I was going through my heartbreak, my pain, and everything else. And these folks were put into my life because God decided he wanted to put them there for the time being, just like he put my ex in my life for the time being until she decided to leave. And I'm thankful for everything. But this one friend that I had a conversation with who doesn't want their name to be mentioned, and I respect that, they had a few questions to ask me. And they've been part of the resilience journey from the very beginning. And they were even in my life prior to the whole resilient journey to begin with. They were in my life before I met my ex-girlfriend, and they're still in my life. And this friendship of ours has actually been a friendship for over a decade. So this year will make about 11 and a half years since I've known this person, and I'm so thankful for them. And they asked me, so you're getting ready to film, to shoot your first episode of the new year? And I was like, yes, I am. I'm so excited. And they said, well, 2025 was interesting, right? Because 2024, you was hurt. You was describing how much in pain you were with everything that happened. It really sucked. But 2025, you had to go through some things. 2025, you had to go through the 1 year anniversary of the Resilient Tribune. You had to go through the 1 year anniversary of the Resilient Podcast. So what does this year, why does this year feel different to you? If it does. And I said, it does feel different. And I was like, because this year I'm no longer chasing anything. I'm choosing. And when I say that I'm choosing peace. I'm choosing purpose, and I'm choosing authenticity over anything else. And that's just the bottom line. So when my friend said to me, what are you going to call this episode? I was like, I had a list of names. I had like about 5 names of what I wanted to call this episode. And I decided to go with number 3. And number 3 was the man I'm becoming. So my friend literally asks me, so what does the man I'm becoming mean to you? And I said to them, it means no more emotional chaos, no more uncertainty. It means standing firm in who I am, who is Rob Aurelius. And I don't want to throw it. I don't want to give anything away, but this is going to be very instrumental when you guys watch the documentary. All 3 parts. So I said, listen, it means standing firm in who I am because, I'm going to be calm. I'm going to be grounded. And I'm going to be resilient. So my friend was like, yeah, being grounded is so important. I'm like, yes, it is. And I look forward to being grounded. I had started in 2025 to start feeling like the calmness and being a little grounded. Like when I made that visit to Philadelphia in August of 2025, when I was getting closer to ending the documentary, I knew that I felt grounded for the most part. So, we were talking and then my friend's like, oh, shoot. So listen, what happened to the documentary, And I was like, documentary didn't come out yet. So my friend was like, are you serious? Because, I literally was looking forward to it. And I was like, yeah. So I was like, so listen, so Rob, why was the documentary delayed? And, just like I told you guys a few moments ago, earlier in this podcast episode, I said to my friend, The reason why the documentary has been delayed is because the timing needed to be right. Quality to me is more important than speed. And I wanted this story to reflect my heart and my journey perfectly. And that's why this documentary has been delayed for part one to come out this year. All parts of the documentary are coming out this year. You know, and my friend's like, all right, cool. So he's like, you said you're going to split it up in a few parts. So, what will part one show? And I didn't want to give too much away, but I said I might be giving away too much. But what you can find in part one and what you will see in part one is the foundation. It's the story of why this podcast exists, why the Resilient Podcast was created. It's the whole purpose why the documentary was created to begin with. And, it talks about why resilience is important and the true essence of who I am. So my friend was like, this is great. So they were like, look, I know this is probably a question that you probably have been asked already, and this is probably something that you've already answered yourself, but I've wanted to ask you, how did heartbreak shape you or reshape you? And I said, well, it's fair to say, and I'm really shocked that I actually answered this way, but I said to my friend, you know what's crazy to believe? The heartbreak didn't destroy me. It actually refined me. It made me dig deeper into myself and find strength in places I never thought I'd look. And that's just the truth. And it's crazy that I literally dig deep. And I think that that's how I was able to overcome a lot. That's how I was able to just realize that I wasn't going, when my ex-girlfriend and I broke up, I literally said to myself, man, she gave me a 5-year journal. And it was a journal that I started writing in 2024. I literally said, for the next 5 years, I'm going to be haunted. Or I'm probably going to haunt myself, harboring all these feelings. And surprisingly, yes, there's moments that I feel sad. There's moments that I feel pain. There's moments that I wish, the whole woulda, coulda, shoulda thing. There's moments that I think about everything and I still say to myself, man, I wish that things were different. I wish that I was still with her. I wish that I was in Philadelphia with her, spending the holidays and spending those birthdays with her, and her she never spent a birthday with me. By the time that my birthday came, we were not together anymore. And we had that plan of going on a cruise together. I was only able to celebrate her birthday. But when my birthday came, we didn't get a chance to do anything. And that broke my heart. It really did, because I said to myself, we never spent a Valentine's Day together. We only spent one Christmas together, one Thanksgiving together, one Halloween together, and that's it, because Halloween is her favorite, her favorite holiday. But I was like, everything else, we didn't spend New Year's together because, New Year's, she was out in her new apartment in Philadelphia. I was out in Hartford, Connecticut. We were supposed to spend it together in Jersey. And, it was painful. It really was. So, folks, I just want to say that this entire journey of resilience challenged me so much, to the point that I remember in the beginning of 2024 having those suicidal thoughts that I had in 2023. I remember towards the middle of 2023, I had been going through so much. I started off the year entertaining some type of I don't even know what to call it. I was having a fling with someone. I was having, I guess, to put it in better words, I was having a casual encounter with someone. And after that whole thing, because it didn't last long, right? Those things don't last long. It lasted about a good 2 months or so, 2.5 months. By the time the spring, actually, it lasted a little bit more than 2 months. It was going on for like about 3 to 4 months. But I had a trip out to California. The last time I went to California was in 2023, April 2023. And when I came back from that trip, and I was already emotionally checked out with this person. She was also emotionally checked out as well too. But the thing is, she was a gold digger, and she, it was all about her. It was all about what she wanted. She didn't know anything about reciprocation. And once I realized that I was pretty much in a situation where I was just giving, I had checked out, and I was like, look, I'm going to be in it for the ride. You know, but let's see how long this lasts. And when it ended, I was, of course, hurt, devastated. But then I started thinking, like, Rob, you deserve better. Everybody else, my friend Estefania, Rob, you deserve better. And, I thought I was going to be okay with it, but I fell into deep depression because I said to myself, this is one of the first times that I've been through this, that I've been through. I was in a relationship previously. I was in a relationship that started in 2018. It ended in 2020. And, 2021, 2022, I took it, just to focus on myself. In the beginning of 2023, I entertained this whole little thing. And it taught me a lesson. I remember once that whole thing that whole thing ended, I was talking to my therapist, and I told my therapist, I feel terrible. A part of me feels like I want to, give her like a goodbye gift and tell her thank you for the time. And my therapist literally got mad at me, and my therapist goes, "Are you serious? No, Rob, you're not giving this person no goodbye gift. Buy yourself the gift, because you did so much for this person. You actually treated this person like they were actually your girlfriend. And she wanted all the benefits, and she wanted all these things. But when it came down to the nitty gritty, and you kept asking her, what are we? Her response was, we're just dating." So she was using it. And I never really talked about this publicly. But, I fell into a deep depression. And it wasn't until I met my ex-girlfriend that I felt seen, heard, everything else. And that's why in the beginning, everything just worked out so well and everything looked so good, because for the first time in a long time, I felt heard, seen, appreciated, and I was happy. And then that, of course, things changed the way they did. And, as the months went by. And I remember the beginning of 2024 just feeling like crap. And I remember all of 2024 just feeling like crap. And I remember where it led me after the breakup, where in the beginning of April and mid-April, the suicidal thoughts came in. And it was similar to the suicidal thoughts that I had in 2023. After this whole thing went down with that girl. And in 2025, I remember thinking about when I went out to Atlanta in October, and I heard about that person that had committed suicide in the hotel that I was in. I was staying at a Marriott in Atlanta, and I think it was the first day that I was in Atlanta. No, it was actually the second day. So the second day that I was in Atlanta, I believe it was Saturday morning, a guy just, lunged to his death from like so many floors above. And people kept saying, oh, this happens a lot here. This is not the first time that in this hotel this happens. A lot of people come to this hotel to commit suicide because of how the architecture of the hotel is. And I'm like, wow. And then, what, about a day later, when I'm going back home, I think it was, Sunday night, I took the Amtrak, and it was 15-hour plus ride back to New York. And it was the next day. It was already Monday morning. And somewhere like in, I don't know if it was North Carolina, South Carolina, and I've shared this story before. We're stuck for like about 45 minutes because someone parked their car on the train tracks. I don't know if it was a male, if it was a female, but I remember them making the announcement that there was an unauthorized person on the tracks inside their vehicle, and they were waiting for the vehicle to be removed off the train tracks. Another person that wanted to commit suicide. The person in Atlanta was successful. The person in, the area where the Amtrak was going through, not successful. And I thought about it long and hard and said, what is this? What is the message? What is this supposed to teach me? What's going on here? What is the universe trying to tell me? And then I thought about, wow, this happened in 2024. Earlier that year, I contemplated suicide. So I reflected about this in 2025 and said, man, and when that date came around in October of last year, a few months ago, I remember saying to myself, man, a year ago, someone committed suicide. And a few days later, another person tried to commit suicide. And all I could do is just think about it. But one of the things I was thankful for, as I said goodbye to 2025, I was literally on that nice bridge that I walk on in Hartford, Connecticut. I literally remember talking to God and praying to him and saying, God, thank you for helping me be resilient this year. And thank you for helping me not want to do something crazy. And, with that all being said, I do want to say that (2026) and every year to come, every year that God grants me to live, I will appreciate it more. I will work on humbling myself more, being a better person. This year, if I make it till May in good spirits, this is the year I'm going to be 40 years old. I will be saying goodbye to my 30s. And technically, I already feel like I'm 40. I'm like, I don't have to wait till May. I'm 40 this year. And when I think about it, I'm like, man, 40 years old. I remember when I was thinking about my 20s, and then the 20s went by. I remember my 30s. And to me, my 30s just went by too quick. I was, 36 years old when I met Max. And then, I was 37. And then 38. And then last year, 39. And I'm like, man. But, folks, this episode is coming to an end. But before we leave, I want to give one more shout out to our other sponsor. And this sponsor is one of my favorites because if you're looking for some fuel for your own journey, folks, make sure you check out Matty Rock's Coffee, the coffee that keeps you going when you need it most. And again, use my code TRP10 right here on the screen to save 10% at checkout. Trust me, for all of you coffee lovers out there, you won't find a better cup. And that's just the truth. So shout out to Nala Health. Shout out to Maddie Rocks Coffee. And the website is right here for Maddie Rocks Coffee right on the screen. And also shout out to the folks at For Your Wear, the official partner for the Resilient Podcast merch. And you can check out our information right here, resilienttribune.com, TRP shop. And there'll be some new merch coming in this year. Also, folks, for those that want to submit their story on the Resilient Tribune, you know, this month we had a beautiful article that was written by yours truly, Carl Title, who's been working with ARCG Media for what? ARCG celebrating 13 years this year. So that's another milestone that we're reaching. 13 years of ARCG. And, you know, Carl wrote a story for us a few months ago before the year ended, but he reached out to me, you know, after the holidays, and he was like, boss, I want to write another article for the Resilient Tribune, please. And he was like, if you're writing an article for, he goes, your story of John, you know, that you wrote to John Cena, which was posted in December. He was like, your story for your letter to John Cena inspired me. And I just want another shot. And I was like, sure, go ahead, man. So folks, the article of the month, by clicking here, you know, visiting resilienttribune.com publications, is our story from Carl, and it's a beautiful story. You know, I just read it a few days ago, and I think it's one of the best stories ever. And folks, if you want to share your story on the Resilient Tribune platform, don't hesitate. Reach out to us at info@resilienttribune.com, and your story will be published. So before we leave this episode, before we wrap up, I want to say to you all that I am thankful for everything. And in today's cards for James, it literally reads, no one is perfect. That's why pencils have erasers. If you make a mistake, take accountability for it, grow from it, learn from it. Literally, there's nothing else I can tell you. Learn from it and make sure you grow from it. You're going to make mistakes. My ex-girlfriend told me this during the breakup conversation. We can start over as many times as possible. There's no shame in that. There's no reason to feel bad for starting over again. And it's just the truth. And I know I'm not perfect. No one's perfect. But I'm glad that there's, you know, if you're writing in pencil, there's an eraser. Because if you got to go back, if you got to erase something and start over again, do it again. Like Aaliyah said in her song, you know, pick up yourself back up and dust yourself off and try again. It's just the way it is. Don't let failure discourage you. Sometimes we need to fail in life to realize how to get it done the right way. And I want to leave you all with this. You don't have to prove yourself to anyone. The journey isn't about impressing others. It's about honoring your path, your timing, and your truth. If there's anything I've learned in this process, it's that peace is success. So there's no more chasing. It's just becoming. That's all I care about, is becoming who I need to be. And as always, I want to thank you all for being part of this journey with me. And I am excited for what 2026 has in store. And I'm ready to show you the next chapter, starting with the Resilience Project, which part 1 will be releasing soon, later this month. So I'm thankful for that. I really am. So, folks, this is all I have for episode 46, the first episode of the year. And it's a pretty lengthy one. I haven't done an episode this long in a while. But again, I want to thank you again for being part of this journey. I'm excited for what's ahead. And until next time, remember to always remain resilient, stay grounded, and stay true to yourself, because we all have got a big year ahead of all of us. And I'm telling you all now, trust the process, please. So I look forward to episode 47 as we get close to episode 50. I don't know exactly when, but as of now, it seems like episode 50 is going to be in the beginning of the spring of 2026, and I look forward to it. But for now, I want you all to remember that life is one. And on that note, remember that there's one life to live, so make sure that you live it well. I will see you all in the next episode. I am Rob Aurelius. Thank you for tuning in, and see you all in episode 47. Peace.